Hello, Bulldogs. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Adobe Premiere Professional. To start with, when you open up Professional, you will see a bunch of panels. I usually choose under Window and Workspaces the Editing panel. Once you choose the Editing panel, everything should get arranged the way you would like. I like Effects down at the bottom, my project up here, my Source panel here, my Program panel here, my Timeline here. Whenever you get it the way you want and set up like that, you can click on Workspaces, save as new workspace, and name it whatever you want, and then you'll have it there to revert back to. Okay. To start with, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the panels. First, you have the project panel. This is where you import stuff to. Pictures, videos, audio. I'm going to go File, Import, and just pull in some pictures real quick. Remember that pictures you would want them resized, the same size as whatever the resolution is of your video. These are 1620 by 1080 pics, so we should be good. Okay, this is called the source panel. The purpose of the source panel is to preview what's in the project panel. If I double click something here, notice that it pulls up in the source panel. Can't do much with pictures, but if it was video, we could mark it in, mark it out, and clip it. This is the program panel. Whatever's on the timeline shows in the program panel. Right now, we don't have anything on the timeline because we have not set up a sequence. And then finally, the effects panel. This is where you will find video effects and audio effects and transitions, which we'll talk about a little bit in the next tutorial. To start with, in Premiere, you hold down Control and hit the letter N for new to get a new sequence. This is basically matching up your video camera with the settings in Premiere. I'm going to choose the third folder down, AVCHD. You'll notice that there are mobile device cameras and Panasonic and Canon and etc. I'm going to click on AVCHD because we use a Samsung video camera. On the second folder down, I'm going to use 1080p and I'm going to choose 30 frames per second. I click OK. Notice that I now have a timeline. To start with, I'm going to make some titles. But before I do that, I want to make these video layers a little taller. So I'm going to put my mouse right here and scroll upward. And as you can see, I can make these a little bit bigger so that I can see a little better. I can also drag windows up and down however I want to, depending upon what I'm working on. If I'm working on the timeline, I'm going to make the timeline a little bigger. I'm going to make my first title by clicking on Title, New Title, and I'm going to choose a default still. I'm going to go ahead and name it Still Title. I'm going to click OK. And the titler opens up. The titler is kind of a program within a program. Notice that there are titler styles. A lot of the tools we're familiar with, like the arrow tool and the pen tool and the text tool. And there's also all kinds of properties. I'm going to go ahead and type something in. Let's just say this is a still title. I'm going to go ahead and pick a preset style. I'm going to increase the font size by dragging this to the right, justify it to the center, and then use these two nifty buttons to center it. Once it's centered, I could increase the height between letters or the distance between, I should say, lines. I could also spread out the words a little bit by kerning. Together, apart. Just going to leave them like so. Go ahead and center it again. Notice that all of these properties that we have over here, I picked this font on purpose or this style on purpose because it has all kinds of changes, all kinds of specifics. For example, look at the fill. The fill is a 4-color gradient. We could change these by clicking on each corner and then picking whatever color we want. Notice that that's now pink. We have a pinkish hue, or we could just go ahead and make it solid and then choose a solid color. Notice that we still have a sheen and a glow on the outside, kind of a stroke on the outside. That's because we have an outer stroke here. I can make that bigger. We have a sheen down here. I can turn that off. Just takes off a little bit of shine. And we have another outer stroke here. We could crank up or crank down. You could literally do anything you can imagine as far as text is concerned. I'm going to X out of this. As soon as I X out, you'll notice that it's over here in the project panel now. All I have to do is drag it down to the timeline. By default, they're 5 seconds long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. If you want to zoom in on the timeline a little bit, you hit the plus on the keyboard. Notice I can see a thumbnail here now. That's very helpful. I'm going to go up and choose another title. New title. This one is called The Roll. Type in the word roll so I can identify it in the project panel. And when the title opens up, notice that I see the text through. I don't want to see this. It's not editable either. What you're seeing is, since the playhead is on top of the title, you're seeing it through on the new title. We don't want that. So I'm going to move this off and let go. And notice now that I have a blank canvas. Click on the text tool. We're just going to say this is a roll title. Go ahead and pick a different font. Increase the font size. Center it. Justify it. Use your arrow tool to get it where you want. I really encourage you to come over here and experiment with these fills so you can kind of get in the habit of customizing it. Okay, one thing you have to do with roll and crawl titles is you have to click on Title, Roll Crawl Options, and tell the Premiere what you want the title to do. We want it to roll, and we want it to start off screen and end off screen. You may not always want that, but we do this time. Pretend like they're credits. We X out, and then if we come over here, you can't see much, but if you click on it and drag this little scrub button, you can see that you have a good-looking roll title. Drag it down to your timeline, and you have a roll. If you wanted it to go faster, you can make this shorter. If you wanted it to take longer, stretch it out. Let's try another one. I'm going to go ahead and move the playhead off the title. I'm going to click on Title, New Title, Crawl. Go ahead and type in what it's called. For text, I'm just going to type in, this is a crawl title. Choose a font. Increase the font so we can see a little better. Okay, for this one, just like the other one, I have to click on Title, Roll Crawl Options. I want it to crawl to the left. I could make it crawl to the right, but let's make it crawl to the left and start and end off screen. Just like before. X out. Drag your title down, or click on it and preview it, and drag it down to the timeline. We now have all 3 titles: the still title, the roll title, and the crawl title. Okay, that is it for tutorial 1. Tomorrow we're going to catch up and add some pictures and some video effects and some video transitions. See if you can get that done for today. That is all.